Governor. Lilipat na raw kami sa Albay lahat. Thank you very much. Ang gagawin po natin, ang nandito ngayong umaga ay halo-halo. There are community organizers, there are people from academe, there are people from the private sector, meron din syempre from government, marami from government, we're very happy about that. Merong mga LGUs at international groups. Can we please see who are the community organizers? Please raise your hand. Okay, thank you for being here. Sino naman yung from academe? Please raise your hand. Higher. Academe. Okay, so meron din. Government. Government, OCD, NDRRMC, halo-halo, please raise your hand. Okay, we also have a sprinkling in the room. The private sector. Oh, that's good to see. And then international groups. Where are you? Okay, good. Did I miss anyone? Oh, media. Siyempre, mahalaga ang media. There's one from Inquirer. Yes. What we will do is, I'd like to invite all of you probably to raise questions or to share your experiences. Kasi kung ang target nga is zero casualty, and the governor said it's a commitment, no? So we'd like to hear about what you've been doing and siguro the challenges that you've also faced. Maybe we can begin with Mr. Pama from OCD. Could you share with us what exactly OCD has been doing and ano yung nakikita nyong possibilities in the future? What can be done?
Thank you very much. Can I stay here?
Yes. Or better siguro in front?
Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. And thank you very much. Coming as it is to speak after Governor Salceda, I don't know what else we can talk about relative to disaster risk reduction. At any rate, I just would like to address po yung question na yun relative to the zero casualty. When I assumed the position as the administrator of OCD, one of the things that was slapped me in the face, so to speak, as a guidance was the zero casualty. So coming as it is from the military, I took it as an order and nothing less. So zero casualty in the context of translating it into literal meaning, I took it to mean as zero casualty in the context of pag may bagyo, walang patay. Pag may catastrophe, walang patay. And true enough, as I went through the process of getting my feet wet, so to speak, on the ground, I realized, and I could not agree more with what Governor Salceda was saying earlier, that zero casualty does not just involve the number of people, the number of casualties or the number of deaths. Although, in spite of the fact that every time that there's a calamity, even every morning, even before I brush my teeth to go back to the operation center, a microphone is being shoved on my face and the question is, ilan na ho patay? That's usually the case. And it gets to be a very, very tiring effort to at least convince not only our friends, but especially our friends in media, that why do we insist on asking ilan na ho yung patay? Because it engenders a negative feeling. Number two, it sets aside the other positive aspects of what we're doing relative to our disaster risk reduction and mitigation. When we talk of DRR, I think the motto in the logo of DRRMC, you can see it, DRRMC proactive. We are trying to put meaning into that word by, again, in the context of the law, which is Republic Act 10121. Whereas before, when we talk, it used to be NDCC, National Disaster. Alam naman po natin lahat yan. Most of us were quite aware of that. But in the context of Republic Act 10121, it was made into a system. I'm not just saying a law. It is now made into a system that we look at disasters in the context of the four thematic areas. Uulitin ko lang po. The four thematic areas being prevention and mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery and rehabilitation. Three of those is covered by Agos. Prepare, respond, and recover. So, okay ho tayo. So, at least 3 out of 4. It's not a bad start for a partnership. Again, when we try to do these things, we wanted to focus in the context of how do we now manage disaster risk reduction and management. So, to give life to this proactive thing, everything was there. Nandyan naman po lahat eh. I think what we have found was that it's a manner, it's an aspect of implementation. Mukhang marami po ang hindi na-implement. So what we tried to do, again, together here with Usec Liboro, what we tried to do is I personally talked to the different department secretaries who are in charge of the different thematic areas. And this is DOST for preparedness, for prevention and mitigation, DILG for response, and DSWD for, DILG for preparedness, DSWD for response, and NEDA for recovery and rehabilitation. After getting the buy-in of these department secretaries, we requested for a focal person who would be available 24/7. And Usec Liboro here was designated as the focal person for DOST. And in our discussions, that was the question that we were trying to put up. How do we address these things? And we came up with a system that we call the Pre-Disaster Risk Assessment, the PDRA, now focusing not only on response and recovery, but now focusing on the 4 areas. Ang nangyayari po rito, the DOST now becomes responsible insofar as the forecasting. And I think I would be proud to say that for the past so many calamities we had, I think we have seen the marked improvement of the forecasting that's being done, not only by Pag-asa, but NOAA, but now as a collective effort by the Department of Science and Technology. And on the basis of a better forecasting, DILG now is able to come up with a more defined process on how preparedness should be undertaken. It has gotten to a point na pag may impending na bagyo, they would call all the way down to the level of the mayors and even the barangay captains and to see how much preparations or what preparations are being undertaken and so on and so forth. Pagpasok naman po, while we're doing that, DSWD now starts working with us, physically present. Magkakasama po kami in projecting on their part what kind of relief items should be prepared, how much of these relief items should be prepared, and where they're going to be prepositioned. So, ganyan po ang naging gawain po natin for the past so many typhoons that, 8 to be exact, since I assumed last May. It's almost what, two a month? Not bad, on average of 1 weekend a month free. So anyway, so we've been doing that and physically sitting together in one table, coordinating with each other, which I think was absent before. So in the context of doing that, the mere fact that you're just magkaharapan po at nagtatanungan even way before the typhoon comes or any calamity would come, nagagawa po natin na kung anong sabihin ng DOST, nakakasiguro po tayo there and then, the ILG now would start doing the preparations and physically call and follow up the things that needed to be done by the areas where it's going to hit. And we are following what we call, in the basis of the PDRA, we treat every typhoon as every calamity as a hazard-specific, time-bound, and area-focused. Ibig sabihin, hindi na ho across the board na signal number 1, number 2, or number 3. What we're trying to do now, pag dadating yung bagyong yan, we do some sort of a formula, which is again, an international, hindi ho invento natin to, it's an international thing, that we look at the risk and the possible impact of that typhoon in specific areas. We look at the nature of the hazard, multiply that with the exposure of the areas where it's going to hit, and the vulnerabilities of these areas, and we look at the capacities of the different towns, municipalities, and provinces that's going to hit. So hindi na rin ho across the board yung preparations natin dito. So along that line, we've been trying to do that. And again, I assure you, it's a work in progress. And so far, we have seen some improvements to it. If we are going to look at it, kung yun ang pagbabatayan po natin, ay yung zero casualty in literal terms, I think we can say that comparatively for the past few typhoons that have come, we have a marked improvement in so far as the number of casualties. We are not saying that totally we arrogate unto ourselves na maganda yung tema, but one major factor also that contributed to this is the cooperation ng ating mga mamamayan. That is one thing that cannot be taken out. And you can see the big difference. Glenda, for example. After Glenda, we tried to look at it. The post-Glenda analysis that we did. We look at Albay. Of course, it's a given. Zero casualty si Governor. Pero umiiyak pa rin siya. Dahil beyond the definition of a zero casualty, walang patay, nahambalos din ho yung kanyang economic side of it. Pero that's another discussion that we can take. And then we look at Region 4, 4A. That's where the biggest number of casualties in relative to the other areas is concerned. When we tried to do we tried to do some what we call a post-disaster forensics, we tried to look at the figures and input some socio-cultural aspects into it. Marami pong lumabas. It's getting to a point that we have realized that siguro yung mga lugar na sinasabi na alam na namin yan, mas marami kaming dunong, mas marami kaming pinag-aralan, gets to be a target audience relative to convincing them na doon ho medyo mahirap. So what did we get out of that? We got the input na siguro yung information and education campaign mas kailangan pa natin sa areas na to. Again, since the discussion of the focus now is social media, it had been a big help. But again, the challenge now are in areas, rural areas, where they don't have the Wi-Fi. They don't have the means to be able to connect. We are trying to find ways, even itong mga text blast system natin, again, is still a work in progress, and we're getting statistics into it, and we're trying to assess, trying to analyze how else we can leverage on what is available in so far as social media, so as the different gadgets that we can have. We tried having this batingaw, and malaking tulong din because it became, we're not competing with Agos, but it became a crowdsourcing information to us, even just in the context of malakas ang ulan. What we're looking at the Doppler radars, for example, is there's strong rain in Catanduanes. We can real-time check with those who are in Catanduanes and say, how's the rain out there? And in real time, they can give us a feedback. And on the basis of that, the analysis can be inputted by our scientists and maybe check on the modeling that they're having. So there are a lot of these things that we are trying to do right now. Agos. During the latest, we do have a memorandum of agreement with Rappler insofar as Agos is concerned. And the last event that we had was during Mario and Habagat. We tried Agos, kumbaga sa tinesting po natin. And we did it, and it proved effective. What happened was, in tactical terms, if I may just relate to you, meron pong, when the event started to happen, we asked the volunteers, those volunteers that have already gotten in touch with us, if they can come and join us at the Operation Center. And at that time, nandun po, may mga nakaupo tayong mga kasamahan, volunteers, who were just monitoring Agos. And the crowdsourcing started to come in. What we did, the volunteers, the rescue volunteers who checked into us, we told them, wag na ho kayong pumunta rito, stay where you are, and we have already accounted where you are, and every time a help would come, a request for help would come in, either by phone call, either by crowdsourcing through Agos or Batingaw, we would validate this. And I'd like to inform you, a number of them were prank. A number of them were pranks. We tried to validate it. We passed on to the nearest, what do you call this? The nearest responder. And chances are they would say, we are on our way, and we would pass on the information to whatever source that came in. Again, this is a work in progress, and there is a big future into this. We are working on this, and definitely we would need to fine-tune this in practical terms. And what we have noticed is, ladies and gentlemen, we also need to work further on the local government units relative to the incident command system. Kasi maraming pagkakataon po nung dumating yung ating mga responders, the guidance to them was, let's follow the incident command system para hindi po nagkakagulo. Chances are, pagdating po nila, there are local government units that the ICS is very good. I think some of the volunteers are here this morning and who can attest to that. But there are local government units that we think we need some further priming and further fine-tuning insofar as the system is concerned. So, again, bago ho kumalat-kalat yung usapan natin, the only thing that I can say relative to Agos is it works, it's effective, but we have a lot of fine-tuning to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.